Folks, I'm extra excited today to present to you my double tumbler quilt project. Not only is it a super easy strip piecing project, but it features my brand new fabric line, New Worlds by TX. Are you ready? Let's get stitching. Well, welcome back everybody to another awesome edition of So Well presented by Stitchin Heaven. I'm your host, Rob Appell. I am so blessed to see all of you out there. If you have not subscribed yet to our channel, please do so. This is a super exciting video for me to present. I will try to slow down and not be so caffeinated, but come on folks, I designed the fabrics that, well, not all of them, but the print fabrics that you're looking at. This particular quilt is a patchwork strip piece project. It's called the double tumbler. It's an easy tumbling block in a tumbling block, and I'm going to teach you how to do it with strip piecing. The prints themselves are a fabric line called New Worlds. It comes in 9 colors and they pair beautifully with the TX solids and shadow blush. That's why we've been talking so much about all of those fabrics for the last year. And this is the first quilt that I get to present to all of you, so I'm pumped. Now at Stitchin Heaven, we have complete kits, and they are called pre-cut because in a pre-cut Stitchin Heaven kit, not only are you going to get the pattern, and I've got mine open, we'll work with here in a minute, but look at this folks, you get the strips already cut down to the 3.5s. The solids are at 3.5s, taking note by the way. The black strips are at 1.5s, right? These are all with the fabrics, but they've even cut down the big and the half triangle. I gotta take this out of the bag and show you. This is just so cool. Look at this. On these half triangles and the big triangles, they've even taken and dog-eared the corners. So these are basically ready to sew and go. Don't be worried, you will get to do a little bit of cutting because we're going to build strip sets first, and I want to explain how the color rotations go so that you can honor your light, medium, and dark. And that's the key to making this project really jump out at you, is always keeping your lights in the same orientation and then your mediums and your darks, and hopefully you can see that across the wall. Regardless of color, it's all a game of values. So nonetheless, I'm super pumped to have full kits available. You probably are getting some of the yardage, so either way I'm going to explain the double tumbler as we get cranking on this today. So the first thing we will need to do, oh, that looks so good. Let's just put it up here on the shelf. I think that's pretty rad. At any rate, so the first thing we need to do, folks, is with your pattern, there's going to be a list of the fabrics here, and then there's going to be a list of the actual strips. So this number here refers to the set. You're making 17 different strip sets. So you need 17 strips of your black at 1.5 by the width of the fabric. You're going to cut 2 strips of all of the New Worlds except for the bright yellow. Okay, you only need 1 strip of that. And then I've got other mixes, like I said, of the solids and the shadow blush that pair nicely from TX. And so we'll get those to mixing. So the first row we're going to build today are the colors that you see across the top of the quilt. And I have now basically made a light, a medium, and a dark strip set featuring a 3.5, a 1.5, and a 3.5. Always the same rotation, always matching a New Worlds print with one of the solids or shadow blushes from TX. Okay, super easy. I want to show you that these are the same exact colors you're seeing here in the strips. The next grouping of strips that I'm going to make that start to come together here and form the next shade, I'm actually going to rotate out. We're going to call them the basics, even though the prints are made as basics too. And we're going to bring in this other group of basics. So that's technically, you're having 2 strips of the prints, but you're pairing them with different colors because as we get to cutting the triangles, that's going to help us make our hexagons come together nicely. So let's do this right now. I will cut from these, but I want to show you how to strip piece. Make sure my iron is nice and hot, because the key to strip piecing, really for me, is doing it nice and slow. So I'm going to go ahead and take now my print, and I'm going to match it to one of my solid strips. And I always sew from one end to the other so that I maximize the amount of fabric I have in my strips. Sometimes it's helpful if you reduce your stitch length down to about a 2 instead of a 2.5. Either way, let's see if this bad boy's ready to rock and roll. Take it nice and slow. Don't water ski behind your fabric. You're just going to go ahead and stitch along here. I think I'm stitching along. There we go. I said nice and slow. Let me slow that down a little bit. And I'm a chain piecer, folks, so to keep myself organized, it's super, super easy. So take all 17 of the New World strips. Remember, there's 9 prints, so 9 times 2 is 18, minus 1 yellow strip, that's 17. And you're gonna sew this 1.5 inch black strip, just like this, with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, top to bottom, to all of those New World prints. Nice even pace. We're not in any rush. We're quilt making, so we should be enjoying ourselves. Holding on all the way through the end there. I think I've got a thread cutter on this machine. I do. I love that feature. Okay, so now though, here's the trick. Instead of just grabbing the next color and sewing it on, I'm going to come over to my wool pressing mat and I'm just going to go ahead and take a moment and I'm going to press the dark fabric away from the print here. Dark fabric away from the print as I prepare to sew on the solid, or the basic we'll call it. And once that's been nicely pressed down, then I'm going to come on over and I'm going to match it to the next color in that line. And again, just as a reminder here, we're following the strip sets as we come down, right? So I guess we're working from the bottom up here in this at the moment because I've got the reds labeled up there. But you can see we're using 2 of the same color, mixing them as we move our way up. So at any rate, we're just going to go ahead and do the same thing. But what I was trying to point out is go ahead and line up your selvages on this same end, folks. I know grandmother taught us to sew down one direction and up the other, but with these wonderful new sewing machines and modern technology and just learning how to sew correctly, you really don't need to do that. You notice I'm not pushing or pulling any of my fabric. I'm just literally letting the feed dogs on the machine do the job. If you haven't cleaned out your machine in a while, and you're finding your fabrics are slipping, that might be something you want to do. We have a lot of great maintenance videos here at Stitchin Heaven. You may want to check those out in one of our playlists. But nonetheless, just sew this through. And when you get all the way to the end, get on back over to that pressing mat, press it open, or press it flat, either way, pressing into the new blue strip. And then we're going to get ready to cut these things. And now that it's pressed together, you can see here as I lay it on, it offers that really cool new tone that will travel throughout the kind of color wheel we're presenting here in our double tumbler. Now, of course, you could arrange your blocks any way you like as long as you keep that light on top. And for this project, we're going to just say our dark is on the left and our medium is on the right. Okay, so that as long as you keep that, you'll keep the perspective and you'll keep your optical illusion alive. Once you have all 17 strip set rows created, now we're going to need to cut these things down. And I want to show you how to build a couple of these hexagons across the top. So I'm going to cut all 3 of these rows because they're going to match back together as a team. But we won't do any of our sewing until all of our arrangement is together because we're actually building these in rows this way, as you see, is probably the easiest way to talk about stitching them. So even though we're talking about the design this direction, because they're hexagons, you may see that some of the long-term row sewing will go this direction instead. So let me grab myself my rotary cutter here and talk about, I'm going to use the Creative Grids. This one's an 8.5 inch tall. It's a 60-degree triangle, and that is key. And I really like the 60-degree triangles that have at least one flat edge on them. Now, folks, you know I'm always in a hurry. You know I go quick, but I never cut triangles on strip sets or almost any strip sets in multiples. I always slow down and I do one at a time. So we're going to come down here real quick. Oh, where's my Martelli mat? That would be wonderful. Check this out. Excuse the noise. Now, what we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and on this one side, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to line up the tip. I'm hoping you can see that. Those colors match the mat really nice, don't they? And so what we're doing is we're looking at a few things real quick. We're looking at our black strip. We're making sure that's running nice and parallel. You can see this line down here is running nice and parallel. Now these are going to be cut at 7.5 inch tall triangles. The first thing we need to do is cut away that nice raw edge, and we're not saving any of these half triangles in the print formula to fill in these spaces here. Those are going to all be done in the solid black, and again, if you've gotten the kit, those ones were pre-cut into full and or half triangles for you. Now I'm incredibly right-handed, so this is where this mat's going to come in really handy. I'm going to go ahead and cut across here and then just rotate the whole mat around and keeping that tip lined up. Here, now I can go ahead and cut this off, set this aside, and for every hexagon you need 2 cuts from each orientation. That'll make more sense in a second, okay? So now I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and slice. Then I like to just go ahead and start to stack. And when I say different orientations, notice the tips of the triangles. One has the print and one has the solid or the basic. So we need 2 of each of those groupings. Now instead of rotating all of that fabric though, I'm just going to rotate my ruler, spin this around, making sure I've got a nice edge lined up over here. Top is still flat. Cutting again. And then solid tip, rotate, and don't let that fall off the edge. Make sure you're being careful. And then turn this around here. Okay, and of course you're going to do that, excuse me, safety first. Of course you're going to do that to all of your strip, and you will yield, if sewn correctly, 8 of these triangles, so you'll get 4 of each design across. But we need to get to designing, so let me quick cut these really quick so I can show you how to prepare the layout. I'll finish these later, but still just doing one at a time on my trimmings. All right, now that we've got all of our triangles cut, let me go ahead and just slide this also out of the way, love those tools, and show you what I've done while you were all getting a snack, popcorn, something like that. Reminder, at the moment I have 4 triangles cut from each strip, 2 of each orientation, because now we're going to keep the prints together in their portion of the triangle. So prints around the outside of this one, prints around the center on the inside of this one. Hoping that makes sense, okay? And what you're really going to do is the first 2 color sets make this unit and this unit here. And if you look at your instructions that either come as the pattern or again, if you're working from the kit, these numbers are referring to the strip set number. So workings from number 11 and an 11. And I've done that through most all of the pattern, keeping them all together, except for in this really cool bottom row you can see down here, where I kind of let the design fall off at the bottom and inserted some extra black. Numerically, it's also exactly what you have to work with. So if you mix up your color patterns working from the kit and put your colors in different orientation, you'll just have a different bottom fill as well. And then those are bottom little black triangles that will come in, and we'll talk about those right at the end of the video. But nonetheless, those numbers refer to the strip set numbers. The strip set numbers were what we were talking about earlier for companion fabrics. And now we're just going to go ahead and do as we said. We're going to match our lightest fabrics of the hexagon unit up at the top. And so if I'm looking at my very first corner, it has the print in the center. And so that unit here forms like this, okay? And you are not able to sew this seam together and keep sewing the other seam. So I want you to be real careful. So this hexagon is going to form here. And then just like we said, on the left-hand side is going to be our medium color. So then I bring in 2 more triangles with the prints that match, and then I'll just bring in my last color here with the 2 more triangles with the prints that match. Okay, hopefully you're doing all of this on your design wall or your design floor or the guest bedroom or something. If you need to pin, stick, do something, tape, baling wire these together, do them in rows this way, because you can see eventually we'll create a straight row where we will sew all of our rows back together. Now, as we continue to work through the design, as I've said before, the key to the three-dimensionality of the double tumbler is keeping the colors in the proper location. So now bringing the lights, but of the different fabric, same fabric grouping, different orientation, that would fill in here, like so. Then the greens are going to fill in on the same side as the greens did, right? Because it's lights, mediums, darks here. And then as this comes around, so very, very nicely, just like this, okay? And that is what represents these two first hexagons. When you get ready to sew the rows together, it's very, very simple. I want to show you that real quick just by matching up basically where the two corners of the black strip come together. That's going to be the most visual union. And so what I'll do is I just make sure I've got that seam correct. I'm going to try to stitch it so that my seam allowances are coming downhill as I sew on the machine. I've got a 1/4 inch seam guide on, so everything's at the same orientation there. And now I'm just sewing downhill over those seam allowances. There's no real good way to nest these seams, folks. It's just the way that it does with strip piecing. But it still works pretty terrific. I think I hit my thread cutter there. Okay, and so you can see here that'll open up nicely. And again, I press after each union, and then now that would be pressed, and some folks, like my crazy friend Tiffany, who's got a real passion for precision, would actually come in here and press these seams open. Now, you're not going to see me do this very often, folks, but this is probably one of the times it would be wisest because we're building hexagons, and with hexagons, you actually end up with multiple points all coming together in this same union right here. And that can create a bit of a mountain in quilting if you're not careful. So the real workaround is to put on your Team Tiffany shirt today and be a patchwork precise person. I'm sorry if that's offensive, but I want you to just possibly try this if you're interested. You could always be Carefree Quilter, Team Rob, right? But if you're working towards some precision, this ironing technique may be terrific for you. And then that way, as you come here to bring on the next piece, and I lay this orientation over, still mostly concerned about where my black fabrics match up. Now I'm going to keep the bulk of the row on the bottom of the feed dogs, right? So the machine's pulling most of the work through here, starting with that needle at that corner. Oop, I think I just did what I said I wasn't going to do. There we go. Nice little start there. And pushing all the way through here. Just like that. Okay, and so that's how that would build out. And same thing, I would come in here and I would possibly even take a moment and trim that open, and then I would press these flat and start to really reduce the bulk in those seam allowances. Now, a last quick thing we need to talk about, if you're not working from the pre-cut kit where you already have 7.5 inch tall solid black triangles and then half triangles, that's what you're going to need to make out of your 7.5 inch strips of black. Cutting them with that same ruler and then cutting them in half, those fill in. So the full triangles fill in along the side walls. Remember, you're making triangles here, so hopefully common sense will tell us that's what we need. And then those half triangles, those are what fill in along the top edges. So right here is probably the easiest place for you to see them, but it's one half triangle with a seam and then another half triangle here. Because remember, you're building all of your rows first before you can assemble the rows together to make this incredible double tumbler tumbling block quilt featuring the newest of New Worlds fabrics from Rob Appell and Tex. Wow, that was a mouthful, but what a great way to end today's video. Folks, I'm super, super excited again to have this fabric line out there. I certainly hope you love it as much as I do. I would love to hear what you think of it personally. I'd love to hear how you're using it. I've been using New Worlds for both applique, patchwork, bindings, backings, backgrounds, foregrounds, all kinds of stuff, and I think it works terrific. There's 9 colors available, and I believe there'll be more in the future. So again, thank you for supporting me as an artist and as a designer. Thanks for supporting Stitchin Heaven by subscribing, getting one of your pre-cut kits from us here, and we will see you very soon with another video. And guess what? It's going to probably have some New Worlds fabric in it as well. Thanks for being here, folks, and please stay well. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. It really helps support our channel. If you haven't subscribed, do so now. Hit the little button to be notified every time we go live or do a new video for all of you. And here's one from the past I think you'll really enjoy.